Okay, we're going to get a little project done here before our big season starts. We're going to patch little pavers in there, and a lot of this backyard here is going to get some regrading done at this line right here. And then back over here, all this side is going to come. And what is happening is this paver height here, we have measurements on at 4.1. And we're going to go over to here at this knock at 4.4. So it's 3 inches lower. And it's going to patch up to that step. So it's not going to be 3 steps anymore, it's going to be 2. We need more pitch coming this way. There's going to be a paver path from here connecting to those steps, and from those steps around this way to those back deck steps. Inside this area is going to be an extension of the blueberries and raspberry plantings. This will be a sole edible garden. So what this is doing is it's bisecting the yard, which I was kind of against, but our in and out will be through here over pavers with a lawnmower and that kind of thing. So we are at 4.6 here, 2 inches lower than the place I just showed you. Everything is stringed up here. I don't have marks, but I do know my paver measurements over there out to the street. So that's where the watershed goes. The same exact path that I just walked is the watershed. So all this is going to patch up to our existing pavers that have been patched out. And our heights are all set. So these knocks right here, these little collars, are set at class 5 height, which is 3 inches below paver height. So our pavers will be 3 inches higher than that. And you can see we're quite a bit above grade on the grass, but like I said, this line right here and then back to that other line way over there is going to be all cut up, and this is all going to get regraded after the pavers are in. So as you can see, we are matching up an existing paver pathway here to a new area. So this paver patio was pitching a little bit more than we wanted, so our string lines are set right, and we pulled back pavers just a little bit further to make that a more seamless pitch. Right now we're compacting the class 5 standard procedure in pavers. We're getting our materials back here, the mini skid. We'll have most of this prepped in one day. We have a lot of manpower on this, so to excavate and have class 5 prepped in one day is about as fast as it can go. And then we will start with the circle, and then we will running bond Holland pavers to the step. Okay, it's April 4th. Today is day 1. I'm going to do a quick recap. We're patching in a new paver section into an existing pathway on a 13-foot circle around the maple tree. We have class 5 almost prepped. You can see right here. Our string line is probably about a 1/4 inch off there for our class 5 prep. And we're prepping to about this shadow mark to start, so that we can have people starting to lay the circle here as this section gets prepped tomorrow. And then we'll just work our way south until we're done. Okay, it's day 2. See that we're getting some weather here, so we have the prepped area tarp now. I had a couple hours to kill, so I peeled it back and scraped some additional sand here. You can see what they did so far earlier today. We're leaving a lot of room around that tree for a planter, and that is about how big I want it. There's still plenty of room to walk this side or go around. We'll patch this with a continued running bond pattern, and then cut a sailor in, and then patch that as well to make this curve. So I'm going to get busy for a couple hours. Alright, this is about the third full day here. Last video I took was in the dark, but this is the pad that I had last time. It's an inlay right here, and then obviously we're finished on that and the cuts are done, and then we're working up this path on the other cuts. We got Joe and Chris out here on Saturday. There's our saw, and this line is outside soldier is set, so we will patch in the cuts in the inside of that. There's always lots of cuts around a circle, so everywhere a paver meets up with the circle there's going to be a cut, and there's really no way around that. You're going to have to cut piece by piece. The other way to do that, which is much more fast or efficient, is lining up a soldier like this, and then we'll score a line here and we'll be able to cut this whole line with a saw. And it's like 10 times faster, much faster. So Chris is gonna get that cut today, and I don't know, we probably got a couple, 2 or 3 more hours of cuts, and we'll sand it up, reinstall the pave edge along the edges, and move on. Alright, we are getting to the home stretch. All the pave edge is in. You can see my spacing is a little wider than we would do it for a driveway, but this is only path, so that's going to hold just fine. Last little cuts remaining here on this edge. This outside circle is done. All these gaps will shrink up after we compact it and put our sand in. A lot of pave edge. It's got to run both sides to keep it tight. I'll do one more shot when we're sanding it and compacting it, and that'll be a wrap. Alright, we are wrapping this up. I'm going to do 2 birds, 1 stone here and get the sand in the joints, wet this down a little bit, show you the color. But all the pathways are finished. This turned out to be about 360 square feet of a lot of path, so it takes a lot longer than a straight rectangle and a lot more of the supports. But path is a path. So I did put a locking sand down. It's got a bonding agent. There's several varieties. I'm testing just something from a box store. It's not normally the name brand that I get, but this is my backyard, so I can watch it and see if it works. You can see the little bubbles forming. That's the, that's that bonding agent in there. So it's supposed to be a weed deterrent, and we'll keep an eye on that. But as you can see ahead, the circle is all done. That last little bit that Joe and Chris had to do was cutting along the deck. That's all in. And what is left will be packing this in with a plate compactor, which normally would be done at the same time as the sand is being swept in, so the plate has sand to ride on and maybe not scuff the pavers as much. But I wanted to get this process in and wrap this video because tomorrow is Monday and there will be no time for this shit. So alright, got it all sprayed off. I'll just show you, this isn't all of it. There was probably another 1 pallet the size of this. There's lots of cuts in a pattern like this. The running bond in this certainly didn't, but when we go to the middle here, and then all along these sides here, and around the entire circle, there's lots of cuts. There was probably at least 200 here. But what we really specialize in is not necessarily new construction. We can do that, that's easy, but the more challenge is in blending existing with new spaces, and we are certainly experts at that. This path came around to the steps, and as the pavers weather, you can see how seamless this addition was. And I had this in mind years ago as I had planned out my backyard, but I started home officing last year and this was so muddy. My soil is very clay, and there's a really shallow grade through here that goes to his sump pump that is going on basically constantly, and into our ditch that is now filling up with cattails, but that's another project. So I needed to elevate this, and I did bring this up about 6 inches back here. So there'll be a slight grade this way. I don't care if it, this is going to get bermed up and raised as a edible garden area. I've already started some blueberries and raspberries along the back. They're just starting to bud right there. And I'm just going to do more of that. Maybe do strawberries in the front with a trellis grapevine that I have some 4x4s here. I'll do something in the middle of that. So this certainly bisects a backyard. I don't recommend it. It's not for everybody, especially it doesn't allow us to pass through without going over the pavers now back here. So I can get around the backside, but this had a function for my office, and that's kind of why I did it. The value is certainly there if you need it or appreciate it for a function and want some space like this. A project like this is going to run somewhere between 8 and 10 grand, depending on the skies and the scope. See, there's an inlay in here, so that was a little extra work. But pavers aren't cheap, but they're the best.